Cool. And we are recording. Welcome, folks, to the latest installment of the Coaches Connect series. I am Coach Jeremy, and we're joined by a whole bunch of lovely coaches with various experiences and professional, we'll say, designations here. Specifically, today we're talking about, or we want to give a quick congratulations to all the folks who are finding out that they have passed the NBHWC. I'm pretty sure I got the acronym correct. If I didn't, please forgive me, folks who are far more familiar with that. Uh, Britt, I know you were saying that you just wrapped up level two. Are you sitting for the NBHWC?
Yeah, I'm planning on it. I'm starting. I just had my first mentoring session with Dom this week.
Amazing. Uh, what else? So I know there's additional requirements after you pass level two. What are the things that are required before you can kind of sit for your exam?
So you have three mentoring sessions with the same coach, either Dom, Tony, or Jason.
Jay?
Yep,
Mhm.
yeah. And then you have to take like an oral board, which is just basically like a coaching session with another one of like somebody different than who you sat with for the mentoring sessions, and kind of show them that you can kind of walk through a coaching scenario. They do a
Mhm.
really good job of preparing you and getting you ready for that, so it's not anything to be afraid of. And then once you take that oral board, then um, you have to do like 50 coaching sessions and log those, and then you can sit for the written board exam. So it's lots of little tedious things. There's also a 6 unit course that's super self-paced, and it's
Mhm.
pretty self-explanatory, but there is a lot of information in that you have to get through. But you can do that just as long as before you apply for the written board exam.
Awesome. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of at the early stages of that
Yes.
next step. So good luck with that. And I see Elliston also mentioned that they are in that cohort as well. So best of luck to both of you if you are proceeding through to the next stage.
Thanks.
Cool. As I was saying before I hit record here, uh, just a conversation that popped up on Facebook, as there are often very useful coaching scenarios that present themselves there. So, one of the ones from earlier in this week was a fellow PN coach asking the question regarding I have a client, they want to engage in something that I'm not 100% sure about, or maybe doesn't align with my coaching philosophy. Uh, how do I work with them here? And it seems like they kind of left it quite open-ended, but I think it is useful for us as coaches to discuss those conversations because likely you will have a client who brings something up to you that makes you pause in your tracks and say, "Hold up a second, I don't know if that's either for me as a nutrition coach to discuss with you, or I don't see it as a viable pathway forward, or for whatever reason, it may cause some tension in the coaching relationship." So I'm curious to know, how do coaches here handle those situations?
I'll go ahead and say something. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
please.
but I think again, I feel like PN does a really good job of reminding us of this. It's um, client-led coaching, right? So we want, to allow them the opportunity to experiment how they wish. Um, but I think, I don't know, when I have clients that come up to me and have their ideas and different things that they want to try, a lot of times I just like to like get curious of what and why they're trying, why they want to explore those things. In my experience with my clients that I've had, a lot of them are like it's, you know, like they have fears of like, or they're not like progressing as fast as they want, and they see other people doing it fast, so then they're like, oh, I've got to try this. And so a lot of times if we address the fears um and are able to kind of have a conversation about that, then it can lead to them being okay with where we're at and the coaching and the direction that we're going. But then sometimes it also leads to, no, I do want to give this a try, and then it helps me be more comfortable with the fact that it's okay that it's not my area of expertise or what I recommend. Let's let them try it and see how it goes. Just having that curious conversation with them.
Can see you're flexing your L2 chops right away. I'm glad to see it. That's awesome. Martin, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I don't really know actually how much more I have to add from what Britt said there. I think the first thing is to really just be curious. That's what I would do. Like, what is it about X that appeals to you? What is it that caught your attention about this? What are you hoping to achieve from this? Um, and because really, what we think about the direction a client wants to take doesn't really matter because the client is the expert. What we're really looking to do is dig out what the motivations behind this are. Like, what are they trying to achieve? How does this appeal? And then we can kind of go from there. The client might ask, okay, what's your opinion on this? I would always be wary about sharing my opinion about an approach or a philosophy unless I'm specifically asked by the client. Instead, I would go kind of like the route that Brittany was saying and just be curious, just learn more, and see where that conversation takes us.
Yeah, that is fantastic feedback from both of you. Martin, I don't know if you're an L2 graduate, but you're
Yeah,
applying a lot of those.
yeah, just
Pardon me?
finished L2. I think I was in the same cohort as Britt there, and the Elliston coaching down there as well.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I think your coaching mentors from L2 would be very proud of those answers and fully endorse them as well. Uh, my response would be very similar. And I think the thing that maybe that coach needed to hear was kind of checking our own biases when we feel that kind of gut reaction to, oh, that's not a thing that I think is helpful or that's not a thing that I agree with. Just take a step back and say, okay, wait, is that based on my experience? Is that based on scientific consensus? Where does that reaction come from? And then if this client still wants to explore those things, let's find out about what appeals to their values uh, from that specific playbook. Like, why do they want to explore that thing? What is it about it that makes it appealing to them? And then going from there. So it sounds like both of you are taking a very curious, empathetic, and client-centered approach. So kudos to both of you. Any other coaches have anything to add to that conversation? Elson, if you want to unmute and pop on and let us know a little bit more about that conversation, we'd be happy to give you some feedback.
Sorry, trying to find an unmute button. Hi,
Oh,
Jeremy. This
all
is
good.
Vicky Borsier. Yeah, I
Oh,
have a
how's
client
it
who's
going, Vicky?
working with other practitioners and
Mhm.
getting guidance that maybe doesn't exactly fall in line with my general practices. So I sort of been focusing on commonalities. I mean, things, which, nutrition 101, like focusing on less processed foods and sleep and stress. And so I try to focus more on the commonalities and things that I can work with them on, rather than some of the protocol that I'm not as comfortable with. That's been sort of an approach.
Gotcha. I'm curious to know, what were the things that kind of like gave you that gut reaction of, oh, I don't know about this?
Um, Maybe if I just use the term balancing hormones.
Okay, that is a very diplomatic way to enter into that conversation. Fair.
That could be, yeah, a hot
Yeah,
topic.
that is fair. Uh, and then it sounds like your approach was to kind of separate out what that practitioner was sharing and saying, hey, this is, I'll let them handle that conversation with you. And then we'll focus on things that support you from other aspects, even though there might be some crossover between the two.
Yeah, and just trying to find out as much as I can about their protocols so I can say, because I focus on what you can eat as opposed to what you can't.
Right.
So just so what can we eat? How can I support you through that? So similarly, I had a client earlier in the year who was doing IF. So same thing there, and asking questions like, "How's that working for you? How are you? Um, grumpy, or I mean, do you have energy, all the things that, the reasons why you're doing it, is it working for you, kind of stuff, if that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense. I'm glad to see that you were able to find a way to still continue to support that client. And yeah, it ties in a little bit also with the response that I shared online. There was kind of three pathways that I was using to consider with my response there. And it was largely around uh, what potential harm do I see in this approach? So I don't think it's wrong as a coach to have, like, you have a good deal of information in this field. We are aware of some approaches that yield better results and some of them that may lead to potential harm. So the question that I pose for myself there is, once I feel that initial resistance, what am I concerned about here? Is it like optimizing from a results-based perspective? Is it, I believe this can actually lead to greater harm than it provides value? And if it's something where I feel like there's a high likelihood that this person may experience harm if we go down this path and they still want to pursue it, then it's for me to kind of take myself out of the equation there and say, hey, maybe I'm not the coach for you. Maybe there's another professional that would fit a little bit better here. If I believe that there is some likelihood of harm, but it's much lower, there is potential benefit here. There are people who do benefit from this, even though if it's not my preferred pathway forward. Let's explore and discover, just like Britt and Martin shared, what is it about this approach that appeals to their values, to their self sense of identity, all of those things that have brought it forward so that we can have an open and honest discussion. And then if they still want to go forward, I will support them to the best of my ability within my scope. And if it's something where I feel like, yeah, they brought this forward, I may not have thought about it, but there's a very low likelihood of harm. Chances are, if it doesn't really work the way that they had anticipated, at least we're going to learn something valuable. Then it's worthwhile to take that experimental approach and move forward while still very much using the language of, hey, this is an experiment that you want to run. I'm happy to support you on this. Daniel, you have your hand up.
I was just gonna speak on my dad because I don't really have clients, but as far as my working with my family, I noticed from some PN coaches that were making sure of how I approached my dad as far as him wanting to take his own path. Because I would work with him, and I have, of course, certain ideas I think can help him. And watching him try different diets was concerning for me. But just looking back from a few years when they was telling me just kind of let him, let it run its course. And I've seen it fail a few times, but it actually kind of worked out for him within these last 4 months. I think he was doing, or he is doing, some combination of keto and fasting, but still concerned with him maintaining it. But he did lose. I mean, he's almost down to my weight, so I'm surprised. He lost a lot of weight. So I'm starting to, again, with what y'all saying, just helping them to follow their journey. I see how it has helped him, and now still trying to. I think my biggest thing is trying to see how he's going to maintain it and help him to do that, because at least he did find a way to lose that weight, to make sure he's getting off certain pills. So I'm proud of him with that. And again, just trying to take that approach when I do take on clients, understanding that it's their journey and everybody has a different way of getting there. But also, of course, we're trying to make sure minimizing harm at the same time.
That is fantastic. I mean, I hope that becomes a very valuable experience for you moving forward in your professional career. And one thing I will say there, in terms of, especially when people are closer to you and they share this information, uh, it's really easy to default into. I don't know if we talk about this in L2 still, but if my recent L2 grads heard the term the writing reflex, I'm not sure if that's something that we discussed, but when there is something that creates tension in a conversation, or there is an idea that's put forward and you're like not entirely on board with it, it's very easy to default into kind of the writing reflex and try and educate or inform someone to why they're their thought is wrong or why that pathway might not fit well for them. Oh, sorry, my 5-pound guard dogs are up in the mix. Someone must be moving somewhere within the neighborhood. But being able to pause there, especially with people who are closer to us, because there may not always be that professional veneer in that relationship. Like I know if I'm talking to my parents, I may not always be as eloquent, or I can maybe be a little bit short-tempered sometimes when I hear about the newest fad diet that they learned about from a WhatsApp chain. Uh, Being able to speak to your dad about that, not become confrontational about it, and to support him and understand that, hey, him sharing this with me is actually the biggest win. He knows that, or it's quite likely that he knows that you're more educated in this world, that you have a professional stake in a lot of these conversations, and he's willing to engage with you. That is huge. So hopefully that's something that translates over to your professional work as well. And your clients will benefit greatly from it, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Cool. Any other perspectives or anything on this topic that maybe we haven't discussed? Kate, I'm curious to know if butt out me is referring to you not stepping on another professional's toes, or
Yes, this was in relation to friends and family doing all kinds of fun diet experiments. Like I can feel myself like wanting to jump in, and I've realized that like butt out, butt the hell out tends to be kind of the healthiest approach for everybody in the situation, because I actually think of myself butting out in that situation being protective of myself and my sanity, being protective of the other person who I might be preventing from kind of learning their own lessons with my expertness, because they might have come to me as an expert, but they're also my my brother, my mom, or my friend, right? Like, so we're not quite in that same role. And I think first and foremost, it's also protective of the relationship between the two people. And I'm literally going through that right now because my running partner has notified me 2 days ago that she's going keto as an endurance ultra runner. So, butt out, singing to myself.
Fair enough. And actually, you reminded me of one more element there, particularly valuable with people who are maybe not our clients and who are sharing kind of like, hey, I'm doing a new thing with us, to immediately kind of go on the offensive and attack the thing may actually slow them from taking any action. So if they're expressing curiosity with you, they're in that kind of contemplative or pre-contemplative stage of change where they're just sharing like, hey, asking some questions, sharing something that they saw with you and want your feedback on it, or sharing their excitement about a new thing that they're trying. Dampening that excitement or putting out that flame at that early stage may prevent them from taking any positive action. So like Kate was saying, sitting back, letting them learn their own lessons is potentially the best outcome we can hope for there. And since we can't predict those outcomes, then yeah, protect the relationship, protect that spark of theirs, and be there ready to support as needed.
And that's a hard one, right? Because it is so counterintuitive. If somebody close to us comes to us and literally asks for our opinion, like literally they come to you and they say, hey, what do you think about intermittent fasting for menopausal women, right? You're like, right? So yeah, you have thoughts and you have feelings, absolutely. But then jumping in, answering the question directly, you're risking all these things that we've just talked about. So my favorite here is, I have some thoughts. Why do you ask? And that question often tells me more, because 9 times out of 10, they've already decided to try a thing. right? Like, and they're asking me because I know I'm in the field and blah, 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 and they want to ask me and it's a compliment, right? And then I have the potential to go in and tell them about all the cons of the juice cleanse that they're considering, right? So now they're feeling discouraged and like they can't come to me because they're still going to do the cleanse. That's the truth. Like they probably already ordered the cleanse. Like the cleanse is coming to their house in the next 48 hours. They were just asking me, right? And me opening up the conversation with like, oh, like, yeah, I've heard about it. I have some thoughts. Why do you ask? Actually allows me to be helpful rather than be an expert.
Excellent. Really useful feedback that I have some thoughts, but why does that come up for you is a golden question to open a conversation on. Thank you for sharing that. Martin, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think that was great that what we've just been talking about there about, if a client comes to you asking for your opinion on something, I always just like to start with, I'm happy to share my thoughts with you, but first I'd like to hear yours. Like why does this feel important to you? Why are you interested in this? Just so you can kind of gauge where the client is at, and sometimes when we do that, in my experience at least, I've found that now my thoughts really just don't matter anymore. The clients kind of brainstormed it by themselves. Um, so I think that that is a great strategy. Anytime a client comes to me, what are your opinions on this? What are your thoughts on this? I'm happy to share that, but I want to hear from you first. Can you share your thoughts with me? Or, and it could be related to an action. So a client would tell me, oh, I did this, this, this. What do you think about that? Did I do the right thing? Oh, well, I'd love to share my thoughts with you, but first of all, can you tell me what you think about what you did? Do you think that you did the right thing and why? And I just wanted to briefly mention like what Daniel was saying, where he was talking about his dad trying all these different diets and stuff, and some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. As you were talking about afterwards, Jeremy, there's always something to be learned, right? When change is what matters. So if a client experiments with change, something doesn't work out, it's never a failure. And it's so important to always emphasize this to clients who might kind of like see that as a failure. This isn't a failure. What matters is you did the change, you experimented, and you've learned from it. And even if all you learned was, this isn't for me, or this didn't work for me, that's still valuable information. So that you're never kind of back to square one. You've never wasted time, wasted effort. There's always like good stuff there, just waiting to be kind of teased out. And I think that's really kind of all I wanted to add. And that kind of philosophy that you opened this session with, what if a client comes to me with a philosophy that's not aligned? I think there's two ways we might approach that depending on where we are in the relationship. So if we're at that discovery call or mutual interview stage right at the start, and it's clear that this client is only interested in working in a certain way, perhaps they're not the right client for us to work with. And that approach and response might be different compared to when we've been working with a client for a month or 2 months and they come to us with like a new diet or a new fad or something they've read about, in which case our response might be different at that time.
You know what? I would actually want to challenge you on that one in terms of the relationship or the stage of our coaching relationship, and challenge particularly our willingness to kind of say, you might not be my type of person. Uh, just because at that early stage, there's too many unknown variables. And it's like maybe that was just on that Tuesday afternoon, they had read an article online an hour earlier and they're like, yeah, there's this thing I really want to try. I can't really gauge how serious they are about the thing. And there may be some elements like almost every dietary strategy has some common elements that we can still probably work within. And there's more in common than not. So it's like we can implement the most rational parts of this or the easiest parts of this initially, and then take that relationship a little bit further. Maybe given enough time and exposure to your coaching style, you may be actually like a moderating influence on them, and they'll come to realize like, oh yeah, that thing that I thought about early on, it's like it's not even my brain anymore. It was just a loose thing that I grasped at because I at lunch someone mentioned it, and I thought maybe I'd bring it up so we can have something to talk about. Uh, so just to say that it's like at that early stage, even if there is resistance, it's worth exploring and taking at least one step into deepening that coaching relationship, because maybe we'll have a positive influence. Maybe we'll learn something more from them. Maybe they'll learn something more from us.
Yeah, 100% I would agree with you there. Let me give you an example. So I work with
Please.
clients who struggle with insomnia. Um,
Mhm.
so so much of the struggle, so much of what perpetuates insomnia is someone trying to get a certain amount or type of sleep, trying to get control over sleep itself. So when I am first kind of exploring whether I'm going to take a client on, if they are completely 100% rigid in, no, I must get 8 hours of sleep. The only thing I'm interested in is getting 8 hours of sleep. I have to be able to control sleep duration. I have to not wake up during the night, and this is the only thing I'm going to gauge my success on.
Mhm.
There's a big opportunity there to explore that, to explore the workability of that. And perhaps, like you said, Jeremy, like you were just saying, perhaps there's an opportunity to explore that and see if the client might be willing to explore how workable that is and if there is a different way forward. But sometimes I've found that there are clients that are just like, no, this is it. I need to get this result within this time frame, or this is not going to work out for me. And sometimes you have to just be like, all right, well, maybe I'm not the right person to take you forward there.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's fair. As a professional, you get to lay that boundary and say, hey, uh, these are some key markers that I need from a person, including seemingly being like more coachable and open to trying things that may not have been tried in the past, or to reviewing things that maybe they've tried. And if they're like, no, I'm not willing to make any of those changes, then it may be quite an untenable coaching relationship. So I will also concede that as a valid point. Cool, but thank you for walking down that path with me.
Absolutely.
Uh, Vicky, you had your hand up for a minute there. Was there something else that you wanted to contribute?
Yeah, I guess just tacking on to what you, Kate, and Martin have said. I think it's also a good time to, I mean, and the original conversation, the person who posted on Facebook, I mean, it is hard, it's difficult. And, giving yourself as the coach a little self-compassion here and saying, yeah, it is hard. Because here you are, you're working on small actions and daily habits to get them towards their goal, and then you see some of these things as distractions, so it can be frustrating. But taking the time to step back, growl under your breath if you need to, deep breaths, and then just say, okay, this is how we learn by trying new things. And yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Thank you for adding that, Vicky. Uh, Maria, I see your comment in the chat box, and we can take a little bit of a step back in terms of, and maybe Martin, you can expand a little bit on this one, because I think this was part of what you were sharing prior. I'll just read Vicky's comment real quick, or sorry, Maria's comment real quick. So Maria was saying that we mentioned that if a client is extremely resistant, maybe you would suggest that the client to part ways because of a difference in approach, and a difference in approach that we cannot kind of like, we can't span that difference. How do you bring that up without the client feeling rejected?
So you want me to share my thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts on this one as well, but it was, I believe, in response to kind of something you shared. So I'm curious to know if you have professional experience here. Is there a tactic or a line of thinking that you use to help to still send that person in a positive direction?
Yeah, I think this is where maybe having a referral network can be helpful because depending on where we are in the relationship with that client, if we're kind of at the discovery call stage and we're just thinking, I'm not sure if this is the kind of client I personally or professionally would want to work with. Um, Maybe there's someone else I can refer them to. Or if we're further down in the relationship, maybe there's someone that we can bring in, as part of as part of the team, so they're
Mhm.
working with someone on something which is maybe not aligned with my personal philosophy, or I don't have expertise in, they can work with that person, but still work with me. So there's always kind of opportunity there, but it can come across, I guess, as rejection if we're not handling it sensitively. So I think we need to be really aware, just be careful with our language. Like be clear on what is the reasoning why we feel that we can't help this client with this specific approach, and why, and just be honest with them, just be like, I've I feel like this is an approach I don't have expertise in. I don't want to let you down. I want to make sure that our sessions are valuable and powerful for you. I'm happy to support you in any way I can as you pursue this approach. But if you're looking for someone who's kind of got expertise in this approach, can I suggest X, ideally, if you've got a referral network with someone, or, so you're not necessarily closing the door, but you're just kind of prompting that person to explore, well, maybe if this is a specific philosophy you want to share, there's someone else that can help you with that. I don't know if that
Fair
answers,
enough.
I don't know if that answers the question or not.
10 out of 10 answer. I couldn't ask for more than that. To add on to your response there in terms of having a professional network, if the case is, hey, I don't want to cut this person loose and just uh, stem the flow of their curiosity or stem the flow of their ability to make those changes that they were seemingly on the cusp of making, uh, the PN community has a large diversity of thought. There are many different types of professionals here. It may be worthwhile just crafting a quick message and popping into PN coaches and saying, hey, I have a client with these details. They're looking for a coach who specializes in this. That's not really my bag. If there's someone here who may be available, please send me a message and I can connect you with this client. So that happens semi-regularly. In our coaches community, we have people who have either worked with someone for a while and they feel like a change in tactic would be valuable for this person, or they just don't have that skill set to support that person. So if you're thinking about, well, I don't have a large professional community that I can tap on the shoulder, the good news is a lot of us work online, and you have access to about 50,000 professionals that you can reach with a few clicks. So never be afraid of reaching out here, and you never know who you can connect with to further future professional relationships. Just scrolling up here. Maria, does that help answer that question for you? Awesome. Glad that we were able to give you some guidance on that one. Just scanning the chat box real quick.
Can we talk about what Kate said about easiest ways to not take them on? I thought that was an interesting comment. And I think sometimes I feel like that could be a problem from coaches, is just not like making sure we're getting clear enough about what kind of clients we're looking for, what we do, what we can help with, versus I think sometimes people sign up and they seem to be, an ideal client, but then later you're like, oh wait, hold on a second. So I'm just kind of curious. I would love to just kind of like maybe experiences with that. Like, how do you make sure you don't take on clients that, are going to be unsatisfied with, or, the services that you provide? Or I don't know if that kind of gets that question kind of turns it to a different direction. But yeah, I'm just
Britt, I
curious.
think you said the key word here, the key word being clear. And I know ideal client is the term we often use. I believe in ideal client just as much as I believe in ideal husband, which is not. Like, I don't really think that's a thing. And part of it is my own bias against, like, given my own baggage with things like ideal client. perfect day, right? Optimizing our life, right? Like a lot of it's kind of like tapping into this, like, let's make things perfect, and they never are. Right. And then we kind of get into this, like, well, this is not my ideal client. This is not my ideal client, where the ideal client becomes who? The person who's ready, able, and willing to do everything you tell them. Chances are they don't really need you. Like, those are the people who successfully lose 20 pounds on their own, right? Like they're great. But I think the word clear is important here, because the more clear we are at the onset about what kind of coaching we provide and what kind of clients do well with us, the more likely, well, the less likely we are to run into this like fit problem later on. And I think also the less likely the person is going to feel rejected. Because here's an example. Let's imagine I'm an intermittent fasting coach. That's what I do. I am an intermittent fasting coach. And then I'm having a conversation with a prospective client, and they're very interested in losing weight and working with me. They really like my vibe, whatever it is. They say, here's the thing though, I don't do intermittent fasting. Like I can't. Like that's just not something I am willing to do. Well, as a coach, I probably would say, that's cool. I don't think we're a good fit then, because I'm actually an intermittent fasting coach. I don't think that person would feel super rejected, right? Like, because, I'm selling bagels and then they want croissants. Like, I just don't have what they want, right? So, and that's where we can minimize rejection. But consider the comparison where I'm a coach who supposedly helps people lose weight. And I'm talking to a prospective client, and prospective client wants to lose weight and they want to work with me because they like my vibe. In our conversation, they say, I'm just not willing to do intermittent fasting. Imagine if I then said, yeah, I don't know, I don't think we're a good fit because this seems really rigid to me. Whoa, that actually would feel very rejecting. You guys feel the difference, right? Like, because again, like on the outset, it wasn't super clear what it is I was doing. Oh, and apparently I'm anti intermittent fasting. It would be really helpful to know that, right? Or perhaps I am not willing to work with people who, I don't know, don't want to exercise. That was something I actually heard from coaches. They're like, I want to start being very clear with my prospective clients that I'm not willing to work with people that are not willing to change their relationship with intentional movement. Like if they're completely sedentary and they're not like ready, able, and willing to change that, like I'm not interested. That's cool, but we need to be super duper clear about that at the outset. Does that help, Britt?
Yeah, no, definitely. I like the comparison. That was helpful.
Thank you for that addition, Kate. Now I'm just thinking about croissants and bagels, but we have a few more minutes still before lunchtime. Daniel, what do you got?
I have another question. Well, a question actually. As far as I was kind of working with my dad, kind of, but he does his own thing. But my mom definitely wants me to coach her, but I've kind of given her space. But seeing her go downhill a little bit lately, kind of as of yesterday, I was like, I'm gonna be more intentional in making sure I guess right now, just more so reminding her of basics. But I was wondering if has anyone run across, I think for her, like again, I know that's the wrong wording to say, where I want to start at. I need to figure out where she wants to start at. But I know one of the basic things is just taking a multivitamin. And it seems like anything that I think multivitamin or any pills, when it comes to pills, she says she has a headache, and I was trying to kind of help her to see the foods that you eat, and maybe even from yesterday, because she'll go on her sweet cravings. I'm like, can cause that. It's not necessarily the pills she's taking, but I know as soon as she tries something, if she gets a headache, she's like, kind of, I'm done with it. So I'm just wondering if you had any clients that even a multivitamin is difficult to get her started, which I got her to take one a day. But as far as consistently, well, that's the what I'm working on with her and more.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see what coaches have to say. Kate, I saw your hand pop up for a second. Was there something you wanted to add?
I think I had a thought, but it was one of those unhelpful thoughts that is not going to help Daniel directly, perhaps. That, Daniel, if you're willing to hear it, I will voice it anyway.
Okay, I'm here.
Even
I'm
though
listening.
I think the caveat is it's not going to be helpful to you at all. So I'm just going to throw that out there. But I think as you were speaking, I was thinking to myself, and this might be an unpopular opinion, and I'm so willing to be challenged on this. But I have a feeling that we can't coach our parents. Like, that's not what we do with them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like, because you have the expertise, because you have the experience and the knowledge and the skills, you can 100% help your mom lose weight. That's what you can do for her. You can help her.
Okay.
Just like you can help her around the garden, you can help her around her kitchen, right? And carry groceries in and whatever else, like you can help her. But I think to actually coach someone, I think the dynamic is all wrong. Because you will be forever her child.
Yeah.
And your words, no offense, will never carry the same weight to provide the same accountability, right? The same pull that we provide for our clients. It's like, oh shit, coach is going to check in with me on Monday. I better get this thing done. Like, right? That thing, I think, is going to forever be missing. That doesn't mean that we cannot help our parents to do X and Y and Z, especially in the things that we have expertise in. Absolutely, especially if they're willing and coming to us for help. But I don't know if we can coach them. Do you see how it's completely unhelpful?
Well, I got you though, because so what I was doing, I would say over this past year, I did, I think, reach out to the Facebook community, and I was looking for, I forgot, specific coaches, and I had her follow a lot of coaches and try to see who does she vibe with and touch bases with some of them. I know the one thing with her right now is my dad's the only one working, so money-wise, as far as having a coach, she's not fully able to do right now. So she follows a few different people, kind of helps, but I can see that accountability is missing. But that's where I had tried to back off. I guess over this past year, 'cause I was kind of helping her the year before. So now it's kind of like just trying to figure out something. I told her today is just basically to provide some type of accountability. Like this morning, I did a preset message just as far as the multivitamin, and then I was thinking of short content because I used to try to send her some longer articles from PM, but I was like, let me just send her some short hitters, reminders. Because when she hears me bring out the things, she's like, oh, I get it and all this, but I think she needs that constant reminder. So I was like, at least for now, I was gonna do some preset messages where I don't have to overthink about it, but probably some of the same things just to, I think I have about 3 set for today. So one that's gonna get to her at 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And I'm just hoping that little system for now. But I know she has found a few coaches that she's interested in. It's just the price point. She gotta work that out.
Fair. And I mean, I think to what Kate was sharing there, I don't know if it's a support or a reminders thing that's going to like bridge the gap, but it is very much a relationship aspect that is always going to be different here between uh, typical coach client versus coach family member that I am supporting or that I am coaching. And part of it seems like it's just semantics. It's like, well, I can share information with them, I can support them, I can check in with them. That's all the things that a coach would do. But there is an element of the relationship that will always be altered. And even if you think of it like you've probably had experiences where you've shared information with your parents. It is valuable information, it is useful information, and then they don't really do anything with it. But a friend of theirs or another professional shares essentially the same information, and it's like light bulb moment for them. They come home, they tell you about this thing they're so excited about, and it's like, yeah, I told you about that years ago, and you didn't do anything with it. And it was just coming from a different messenger, it carries a different weight. But by all means, please do continue to support your parents in the ways that you are capable of, uniquely capable of, I would say.
That makes sense. And I see someone put husbands are a challenge. I would say to go along with that, yeah, my father he figured out his way of, he got his weight off. So he's figured out a diet for him, but it doesn't work of course, for my mom. And he don't
Right.
fully know how to support her because she's done well one year and I've kind of delved into that, but he was not on track. So now he's on track and it doesn't align with her. And I know he don't know how to give her the right support. He just tells her everything he reads,
I mean, I pray
everything he
to
looks
God
up.
for his sake that he doesn't assume the role of the expert in the household and try and coach his wife now, which it seems like he might be going down that path. So please
Oh yeah.
get him to pump the brakes if possible.
Yeah.
We'll pray for
Uh,
him.
Daniel,
thank
and
you.
I think notice here that what we can take away is that, like, when we throw out this scenario to the community and say, hey, have you guys had clients that were in the same situation? Yes, absolutely, right? But then the amount of direct parallels that we draw is going to be limited. I'm a biggest believer that we can compare anything to anything. Like, we can absolutely compare apples to oranges, right? But we also just have to keep in mind the limitation that what has worked for someone else with their paying clients is going to be different in terms of what has worked for you with your maybe freebie first two clients, or definitely the mom, right? Like, so, and not to say that you can't be helpful. Like, I kind of think of, like, okay, let's say a parent wants to start taking vitamins. You being in the field can ensure that the kind of vitamins they take, that the brand they take, is going to be that of the highest quality. You're not going to have your mom just take any crap brand, right? Like from the grocery store shelf. And that's a great example of where you can be super helpful, right? Like, if she indicates a desire to take multivitamins, not only you can tell her which ones, hell, you can buy them for her, right? You can bring them to her house, bring her a little pill box, put them by her bed, help her kind of hack the day in a way that makes it more likely for her to take them. And yet, you're still probably not going to be putting them in her mouth, right? Like, at this point of caretaking and caregiving.
No, that's true. No, I won't be doing that. And I was looking through what she had available yesterday, and I did come up with she was asking me for recommendations for a few changes. So I sent that to her last night, and still looking at a few more things for her. But that's so true. Definitely trying to line things up to make it as easy as possible. But yeah, still be the point of if she actually takes it.
Leah, you've had your hand up for a minute. Anything that you want to contribute to this conversation?
So I totally agree with Kate on we cannot coach our parents. But something I've been doing, because like I have my mom who's like, I'm gaining weight, I'm doing this. And I'm like, at first, when I was like, before I was done with my coaching stuff, I would just like word vomit all the information, right? And that's when I personally experienced, okay, I'm literally just wasting my time and wasting my breath because it's not going to be applied. So something I found really helpful and inspiring is, and this is something that you could do as well, is just talking about what I'm doing. So I'm like coaching my mom, but not coaching my mom. So just letting her know, like, oh, today I'm doing meal prep. Today I'm doing meal prep. And I say that every single week. And now she hears me doing that, and she texts me the other day and she was like, hey, I'm doing meal prep, and sends me this picture. So it's like I just saw the sneaky coaching. That's kind of what it's like. And it just helps support them because we want to support our family. We want them to, we want them, to be healthy. We want them to be their best because they're our parents and we love them. And we want them to age well as well. And just encouraging. And I feel like when we lead by example or just put those little nuggets in every once in a while, it really helps support them. And like now, my mom, who's never meal planned in her entire life, is meal planning, and it's just from me talking about it and sending her pictures and getting her inspired. So now it's something of, I guess it's, if you look at it this way, it's like when we're growing up, our parents are our role models, right? So they're doing these things and we're watching them. And now that role is kind of reversed, but in a more indirect way. Um, so just talking about what you're doing and not force feeding it, just being like, oh, today's going great. I made all my meal plans and I made my grocery list and I got to go get all of the stuff, to make it and then send pictures because it's just inspiring. So it's just, I think it goes down to just inspiring our parents or maybe letting your mom know, like, hey, I started taking, like we were talking about, with finding the right vitamins, like, hey, I just started taking this vitamin. You keep talking about it. Eventually she's going to be like, okay, I want to take that vitamin. So it's just that indirect of support.
Thank you, Leah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Being intentional without being intentional. I like it. Leading by example.
Yeah, it's kind of different and it took me a while to figure out. Um, but once I did, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm helping my mom and she doesn't even know that I'm helping her. And this is great.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
How devious. Uh, but yeah, Daniel, hopefully that is helpful for you, understanding kind of more of those light touches without having as much of a follow-up as a regular coaching relationship might have. Uh, there's no kind of like, there are certainly stakes involved. It is their health that we are trying to protect and promote, but being okay to sit back and allow them to demonstrate to you that they're doing the thing. And if not, then you continue to be there to support them no matter what. Cool. We're coming up on time. Any last ideas or concepts or questions that we want to share before we wrap up for today? Cool. Then let's leave it here for today, folks. Uh, Thank you for everyone for offering your insight, for starting conversations, and sharing feedback with each other. Uh, the next one, let me see when we're back on. I believe our next conversation is again on Thursday at 11 a.m. And I think Kate is running the show for this one. So hopefully see you there at 11 a.m. Eastern next week. Take care, gang.